presentation of Fox Sports.
We are Fox Sports. We are St. Louis.
This is St. Louis Cardinals baseball. And it's the final game of the regular season here from Busch Stadium as the season comes to a close. Game number 3, the Milwaukee Brewers and the St. Louis Cardinals. Jim Hayes is with us. That's Rick Horton. I'm Dan McLaughlin, and welcome to St. Louis Cardinals baseball. It's been an up and down year for the Cardinals. Cardinals will not go to postseason play, as we know, but at times it's been a fun year too.
And one of the ups for the Cardinals have been the production from their young players. We're going to see them all in the lineup today. But one thing I hope for the veteran guys who'll be sitting on the bench today, I hope they can enjoy the fact that there were 3.4 million plus fans who supported them this year. Sometimes they talk about the noise they hear, the 1,000 or so people that love to complain. But how about 3.4 million showing up and rooting for them and cheering them on, not to mention the millions that watched on Fox Sports Midwest.
All right, a lot of young guys made an impression this year. Jack Flaherty gets the start for the Cardinals today. And we'll talk about the phenomenal freshmen, the rookies, before our first pitch this afternoon. Made an impression in 2017. Let's take a look. John Brabia making his major league debut. Fly ball out to left. You made it to the big leagues. Martinez at the wall. We're tied. There it is. His first at bat. Paul DeYoung goes deep. Struck him out. First major league strikeout. Another moment he'll never forget.
Alex Mejia, first pitch to left field, and that's gone. Earlier tonight, he had his first hit of his major league career, and now his first home run of his major league career.
Bader trying to score. Throw to the plate. He's safe. He's safe. A night he'll never forget. Boyd hits it into right center field. His first ever major league hit. And what a moment for the St. Louis Kid. The throw is not in time. Sierra, his speed, does it again. Good start for Weaver. Here's a 1-2. Got him. Strikeout number 10 of the night for Luke Weaver. Throw to third. Oh, yeah, he got him. Swing and a miss. He struck him out. Welcome to the big leagues, Jack Flaherty. He has done it. His first ever major league home run. Long one. Big Mac land. Wow. He crushes it into Big Mac land. At the wall. It's gone. The rookie from Antioch, Illinois. The guy has been incredible. Ryan Sheriff, 3 scoreless innings in his major league debut. Great moment. Welcome to the big leagues. And Scott Van Slyke from a few years ago.
One of my favorites. That was a playoff game.
Yes, it was. The umpires got upset.
They did. I think they might get upset here too, but I think this may take a while. And of course, the key question is which side will blink first. I have a feeling Carlos is going to outlast Arcia. He's got the umbrella. He's got the police vest on.
He's got the bats around him.
Huh. Here we go. Or do we? I believe that Arcia is claiming victory. But everything Carlos does is fun.
So Jack Flaherty getting the start today in place of Carlos Martinez once this game did not mean anything in the standings for either squad. So Flaherty goes today.
I'm happy to see him one more time. I think he would be better off finishing on a good note with a good start, and he's got essentially the B lineup for the Brewers as well today. Both the Brewers and the Cardinals each getting eliminated here towards the end of the season. I know frustrating for both teams, but got to play out the season.
Eric Sogard at the plate. .364 hitter against the Cardinals this year. Sogard, Villar, and Thames, Aguilar, Perez, Phillips, Broxton, Bandy, and Wilkerson, the pitcher. In on the hands, and that's fouled back.
Flaherty.
The Brewers, man, you think about losing yesterday up 6-0 with their season on the line.
They're still feeling it. There's no question. Colorado losing later. This could have been a meaningful day for them. But Craig Counsell took his team a long, long way. A team that wasn't supposed to be good until next year or the year after.
Your experience, are guys swinging early, swinging often, wider strike zone, final game of the year?
Wider strike zone is typically the case, and that I know has been curtailed a bit as the umpires are judged on every single pitch that they call now and have to answer to that. But I think it's a logical thing on the last day of the year. And players will swing, be a little bit more aggressive. There's our umpires.
And the 3-2 pitch to Sogard, who's at shortstop today. Leadoff walk. The Cardinals defensively today, as Ricky mentioned, many of the regulars out on both teams. Sierra Bader and Grichuk in the outfield. Diaz, Mejia, Valera, and Voit on the infield, and Carson Kelly behind the plate around the horn, presented by Dobbs.
10 straight winning seasons for the Cardinals, but not quite enough wins in 2017.
That's up the middle, just past Flaherty, and thankfully so, and into center field.
Been a bit of a lost season for Jonathan Villar, but he wasn't lost on that pitch. He saw it, lined it up the middle, made a lot of errors early on, and the Brewers benched him, and he really never got back in the lineup again.
Terrific speed. Last year led the league in steals. Here's Eric Thames, 31 home runs. Mentioned that the Brewers, ideally they probably weren't going to contend, at least at the beginning of the season on paper, until next year at the earliest, the year after that. But when they went out and got Thames and Shaw, those were the two guys that really made a huge difference for them. There's no question about it. Good changeup, 1 ball, 1 strike.
Definitely ramped up the timetable. Thames, one of the few regulars in the lineup today, and one of 3 30 home run guys for the Brewers. Thames is playing, and Keon Broxton. But other than that, we're seeing a lot of players off the bench for both clubs today.
And a grounder that's pulled foul. Second time in franchise history 3 Brewers with 30 home runs in a season or more. Shaw, Thames, Santana. The other time, the 1982 Brewers. Gorman Thomas, who swung and missed at the final pitch of that season against Bruce Sutter. Ben Ogilvie at 34. Thomas had 39 that year. And Cecil Cooper, good player he was. He had 32. That pitch in the dirt. So Thames, Shaw, Santana, 30+ home runs.
Brewers can build on those guys. They've got good pieces with Arcia, the shortstop, and their next level, Dan, is to bolster their starting pitching. Anderson and Davies, big years for them, but they need a couple more guys.
Carson Kelly has seen the bulk of the playing time down the stretch with the foul tips off the mask of Molina in the series against Chicago.
One thing I'd like to see more of today with Kelly and Flaherty working together is more fastballs from Flaherty. I know he likes his slider, but he has to establish the fastball for that slider to become an out pitch for him. Not a good start.
So the bases are loaded. And already Derek Lilliquist out to visit. Flaherty in the plans at some point in the rotation. The question would be, is it in 2018?
Well, you know, it may be a little bit early, and not that it wouldn't be sometime in 2018, but I wouldn't think the beginning of 2018. I think you just give him some time to polish things off at the AAA level next year. He was 14-4 this year in AA and AAA. ERA under 2 in AA. I mean, this guy was dominating, and a little bit like Luke Weaver, I just think he needed that little extra polishing that Weaver got this year in the minor leagues, and then he became an impact guy here in September.
Longtime director Tom Mead back with us today and loving every second of Cardinal baseball. And a swing and a miss by Aguilar.
Tom will probably be directing other games just in his home practicing.
Sure.
During the off season.
Here's the 0-1 pitch. He loves to get into the aspect of the game too. A guy like Flaherty struggling to find the strike zone, and Aguilar in the first pitch swinging at a ball that's 2 feet outside, and sometimes Tom will just wonder why. Why does that happen? Well, it's questions like that going into the offseason he hopes to answer.
Well said. You know, some things just don't have an answer.
No.
And I know people have been looking for the answer for the 2017 Cardinals, and I think the answer was they were good, just not good often enough. In winning season, yes, but playoffs, no, and chances to improve in 2018. I think we've talked about it, but middle of the lineup thump and a bolstered bullpen, and that's a good place to start.
Well, 2 walks in the inning and the base hit. Bases loaded, nobody out. And watch out here. This guy's got big power. 15 home runs, primarily coming off the bench. The 3-1. You mentioned now you want to finish the season on a high note. You'd hate to see Flaherty get roughed up and go and think about that all winter long.
Well, we'd hate to see it. I'm sure he'd hate to see it even more. And it is a long winter when you have a bad game your last game.
3-2 put into play. Right field, and the catch is made by Grichuk. Runners will tag up. One will score. And it's 1-0 Milwaukee. Let's take a look at our Toyota keys to the game.
Well, as we go along here this afternoon, I think the key is just to have fun with the kids playing today, and recognizing that the average age of the Cardinals lineup today is 24 years old. And you think about who the oldest player is, it's Aledmys Diaz, but you're talking about an average age of 24 and the faces of the future for the Cardinals in many respects, and a lot of good experience in 2017, but we're going to see them one more time with hopes that they will even be better next year.
Runners at the corners. Hernan Perez.
Another sign of Flaherty maybe being a little flustered here. He was going to go out of the windup until somebody stopped him, and you just feel for where his brain is right now and the tension he's feeling.
Oh, 2.
In my comment earlier, I don't think he has confidence with his fastball right now. I think he has confidence with his slider, but not his fastball.
And the 0-2 pitch. There's the fastball in. Notice the shoulders slumped a bit with Flaherty. You don't want to see that. I mean, this is the final game of the regular season. Go out, be aggressive, hopefully have success. And the 1-2 pitch. A strikeout, his first of the afternoon. Brings in the right fielder, Brett Phillips.
Well, there's the slider he has confidence in, and why not? Good sharp break down and away. Flaherty, the #1 pick for the Cardinals in 2014, started against the AAA team for the Brewers. Had one start that came in June, and he had 10 strikeouts in that game in 6 innings.
And he faced the man at the plate. It's a high fly ball out to right center. Bader racing after it, looks up, and it's gone. Phillips had 19 home runs at AAA, and he picks up his 4th here in the big leagues. 4-0 Milwaukee.
Looked like an off-speed pitch down and in, and to the sweet spot of Phillips. Phillips did not hit Flaherty well in that game that we're talking about, but certainly sat on that delivery. He's one of those stars that we don't even talk about much when it comes to the Brewers, but they're very high on him.
Ricky, you have nailed it on the head. That slider, he's going with that a bunch, and the fastball, staying away from it primarily here in the 1st inning. There it is again, the slider.
Well, 58% of his pitches at the big league level this year have been fastballs. I think that's low for a guy that throws 94 with sink. And he should be able to get more strikes with his fastball than he's getting, like there. And the key is not being afraid to throw it over the plate and have command of it enough to get some foul balls, some swings and misses, and then you go for the wipeout slider.
And the 1-2. Ground ball that's hit to second. Valera with it. Phillips with home run #4 in the big leagues, and it's 4-0 Milwaukee. Friends. Buy Chevy Silverado, the most dependable, longest lasting, full-size pickups on the road. Find yours at your local Mid-America Chevy dealer. And by Menards. Save big money at Menards on all your home improvement needs. I would imagine that shot from the camera of Tony West. Our crew, the men and women of our crew, thank you so much for everything you do for us and for our fan base. Some hot nights, hot days, long hours, and they are the best in the business.
And another nice crowd today, and depending upon what number the Cardinals reach today, they'll be one of the top 5 or 6 attendance totals of all time for the Cardinals. That's how good it is, 3.4 plus, depending upon the crowd today. As we look at the Cardinals batting order, again, a lot of players that were in AAA most of the season, and Sierra in AA.
Breivik Valera hitting 167.
The fans that were here, Dan, one of my favorite traditions at Busch Stadium, and there are plenty of them. You think of the Clydesdales opening day, and things seems like just yesterday in some ways, Dan, that the players were coming on in their trucks, but to have the crowd sing the national anthem as a tradition here at Busch Stadium in St. Louis on the last day, that's pretty special. Really nice moment.
Here's a 1-1. And a ground ball to Thame. And they make the play. Check that Aguilar to the pitcher, Wilkerson. And there's one away. Look at the Brewers defensively. Thames in left, Broxton in center, Phillips is in right. Perez, Sogard, VR, Aguilar, and Bandy is behind the plate.
Who is Aaron Wilkerson, you might ask? I'm waiting.
Rick, tell me who Aaron Wilkerson is.
I was afraid you'd never ask. He's looking for his first big league victory. 28-year-old right-hander. And he started in the playoffs against Memphis, Dan, not that long ago, and had 7 no-hit innings. They took him out after 105 pitches. He had 11 strikeouts. And this is a guy that a few years ago was just a former college pitcher recovering from Tommy John with no team. And an independent team signed him. The Red Sox took him from that. The Brewers traded for him, and he went from not having a job playing to being a big league starter. Just really glad you asked.
What does he feature?
I was hoping you'd ask that too. Fastball, slider, curve, change. Does not throw hard, about 90 miles an hour. But the slider's where he's going to get his strikeouts.
Where is he from?
The United States.
Anything else you want me to ask?
No, just U.S.
Okay.
U.S. citizen. That's you kind of stumped me on that.
Citizen.
He's from Fort Worth, Texas.
I'm using that next year.
Feel free.
He flies to right center in the out. Where's the guy from? And all of a sudden you're scrambling through the. He's a citizen of the United States. All right.
Feel free.
That's why you're one of the best in the biz there, Ricky.
Thank you, Danny.
21 home runs back-to-back years, 20 or more home runs for Randall Grichuk. 2 outs and nobody on.
You know, I mentioned it a little bit in the open, Dan, but this last game is a day where sometimes the players can be a little bit reflective. You don't let yourself do that. You can't really until you get to this point. But being down in the clubhouse, they were half getting ready for a game and half packing their bags and their suitcases, and it had a different feel. It's getaway day for them essentially, and when I mean getaway, I mean really getaway for 4 months, and very different kind of atmosphere there. You get a little melancholy. I think guys are, you know, sad that it's over. Clearly that they're not playing into October, but you forge relationships and connections, and you know, there was a saying back in the day we used to say on the final day of the season, and this probably happened since Ty Cobb. Somebody says, okay, tomorrow you get to pick your own friends.
A lot of truth to that.
There's something to that.
Could be a very interesting offseason for Randal Grichuk. Arbitration eligible. And you have all the different outfielders that the Cardinals have. You never know if he comes back. Came over in the deal with Peter Borges for David Freese. 2 balls and 2 strikes.
Well, he's certainly an attractive talent for all the things he could do. A good outfielder, good power. Kind of has bad streaks. That's what he is. And you either live with that or you don't. I believe Bandy thinks that that's a foul tip, strike 3, but he's not going to get that sold on our home plate umpire. And he's right.
Yeah. And the 3-2 picks up the strikeout. So the Cardinals go in order. It's 4-0 as we move to the 2nd inning. At RBIGame.com. Here's Jet Bandy. 4-0 Milwaukee. Bandy 0 for his last 14. Hasn't had a hit literally in a couple of months. Hasn't played a lot.
Well, he got hurt in a bad time for him. He was starting to become more of a regular catcher. They were doing a bit of a platoon thing actually with Pena.
Out to left, and a diving catch in left field by Sierra. Nice play.
I'm not sure the route was perfect, but the athleticism sure was. He can close on a ball in a hurry. He's going to be a good outfielder, and he'll be a center fielder eventually. He's got an arm to be a right fielder, and he's got the speed to be a center fielder.
Here's Bob Uecker, Mr. Baseball there on the left. Shocking that he's laughing in the booth. Just a bit outside.
He's priceless.
The best. Oh, 2 on Aaron Wilkerson. Puts it in play, and a ground ball to short. Out number 2. I wonder if today Mike Matheny would try to give, let's say, a guy like Lance Lynn a little send-off. All indications point that more than likely he's not coming back to St. Louis. You never know. But did not have the ovation that others have enjoyed that have been here a long time and had success the other night.
You know, in a basketball game, you can bring somebody in for a play and then take them out and do that. Baseball, it's harder to do that. Let Lance play first base for an inning.
Maybe goes out, warms up, and then comes off the mound.
You have to face a hitter, though, right?
Yeah, lob one in there. What's the difference?
I know. I'm trying to play along with you. I'm looking for a scenario myself. You let him pinch hit. He is a switch hitter, you know.
Launch angle.
Yeah.
Big for him. 0-2 the count on Eric Sogard, who walked and scored back in the first inning.
Well, the only problem with the send-off is that, I certainly heard Mike talk about him after his last start and said, I'm not closing the book that he wouldn't come back. I wish he would. And again, the odds are probably not in the Cardinals' favor at this point because Lance is going to get a big offer he can't refuse somewhere, I would guess. And good for him. But I would think it might be out of the price range that the Cardinals have in mind. We'll just have to wait and see. Toughest job, Dan, this winter won't be the players or the managers or the coaches. They'll all be working to get better for 2018. But I think the general manager season, the off season, is going to be critical, and it'll be very busy for Michael Gersh, John Mozeliak. I think they'll be very, very active, and they've got some work to do.
Nice play by Kelly. We move to the bottom of the second, 4-0. Drinks any drink, 50 cents the next day, and On the Run when the Redbirds score 6. Keep the celebration going and stop by On the Run tomorrow. Thoughts and prayers with Kevin Hadler, the family of Kevin Hadler, as he passed away suddenly of cancer. Big Cardinal fan, never missed a game, and want to send our prayers to that family. Helen Glisson too. Helen, I met on the cruise. She passed away this year. Been meaning to say we miss her, and our thoughts with her family and friends as well.
Well, that just, and there's thousands of other messages, Dan, that we could bring up on the air, but it's just a reminder, both those thoughts of how the Cardinal situation here is a family situation, whether it's people, as you mentioned, you meet on the cruise or during the off season, the caravan event, baseball writers dinner, whatever it might be, the winter warm-up. It's really a family. It's a connection between the fans and the players and the folks that do a great job of running this organization that starts with Mr. DeWitt. It's a class organization from top to bottom.
The 2-2 off the bat of Voit, hit to third. Sogard and Perez, by the way, swapped positions. So Sogard at third base now, Perez at short.
I wonder if Perez is going to play every position in this game.
Could be one of those deals, sure.
He's certainly the kind of guy that could do that. He's going to pitch the bottom of the ninth.
He has tossed a scoreless inning. That was against Washington. He was just the 11th position player in Brewer history to pitch. Here's Harrison Bader, had 3 strikeouts and then picked up the game-winning hit RBI to essentially knock Milwaukee out of the playoffs. Hustling down the line, 2 away. Any big off-season plans here, Mr. Horton?
Well, what will I be doing this offseason, Dan? Looking forward to 2018 is what I'll be doing. Traveling a little bit. But, you know, the season is, you know, we love the season, but I think in all aspects of people around baseball, you need the offseason to re-energize for the next one. And I think that's what we'll all be doing.
We're going to have some rewind shows.
Yes, we are.
We're going to do more Cardinal off-season programming this year on Fox Sports Midwest. Here's Aledmys Diaz. My goal is to be in the top 10 of the cars and pickup line at school. It's been a personal goal of mine this year.
You're going to give it 100%?
I am.
Good.
The off-season, that's big.
Stay within yourself now.
Just me hanging around with a lot of moms. Hey, ladies.
I'm sure they love you.
Oh, yeah, they love it. How about that play? On a hop and safe at first. And Diaz may have hurt his hamstring. Reaching for the bag. Reaching now for the back of his left leg.
Yeah, I would think Diaz is going to have to come out. There's not going to, once you hurt a hamstring, it doesn't get better. It only gets worse. So Perez is probably going to make a great play at every position today. And this is his shortstop play. Might have spun the wrong way, but good play. I thought he was out, actually. And as we see it on the replay, he was.
And the Brewers are reviewing this. So that'll be it for Diaz. He'll come out. Brewers will go out the field, and we will head to the 3rd inning.
That's a nice play by Hernan Perez. Really nice, and too bad for Aledmys Diaz.
we would have heard from Jim Hayes by now, but final game of the year, Jim decided to mail it in and join us here in the booth.
What'd you say?
Yeah, he mailed it in. He just mailed it in, Jimmy.
I think if you would have said, Jim, what do you got? I would have said nothing. So they said go up to the booth where there's a lot of nothing.
I saw your interview with Carpenter. I enjoyed it. You could have talked about that. But now
we can now, right?
Well, tell us about the interview.
Wait a minute.
Go ahead, Rick.
I considered sitting in between you guys when I realized the three of us were going to be up here, and I probably should have done that.
No.
You guys okay?
I'll be honest. I would have hiked my chair up so I look taller.
You look great, Jim.
Thank you, Dan.
Now, and back to what you just said, Dan. That was outstanding, you and Matt Carpenter today. I enjoyed every second of that.
Well, Matt Carpenter wanted to interview me. He said he'd come on the pregame show live. We were looking for someone. And he asked me how I plan to be better in 2018. Obviously, a lot of questions about how the Cardinals are going to get back on track. You look great, by the way, Dan. And I said I'm going to learn to trust my stuff. I'm going to spend some time in the video room, and I'm going to have more buy-in. So that's the plan. And it starts tomorrow, Dan. You know, I'm not taking any time off. I'm going to get back in the video room, get some reps, and come back better than ever next year.
Swing and a miss and a strikeout of VR.
How do you get better, though, Jim? You can't get better. Come on. Sometimes you just have to recognize
Jimmy,
that
you're pretty good.
You've had a good year. You've had a good year. You've had fun moments on the field with players. You've asked some really good questions. I would say your question ratio is better this year than ever before.
There's a lot of volume with the question asking. I'm like Tommy Pham. You know, Tommy Pham could go 3 for 4 with a couple of homers, and he's not satisfied. The quest for regional cable journalism done at a high level is never ending. You never reach the peak. You never reach the pinnacle. So that's my quest. Am I done yet? You kicking me out of here yet?
No, I'm just taking it all in. You two seem to have it all under control. Jimmy, you had a great year, though.
Thank you, Dan.
Did you have
guys
fun?
did too. We had a great group of guys. And, you know, looking ahead, some of these guys might not be here. It's a little bittersweet.
How about Lance Lynn?
Love Lance Lynn. Would love to see him come back. Lance doesn't think it's going to happen, and I think he's probably right, but he's been a great pitcher. He's been great in terms of the media, and as you know, Dan, on a personal level, he's a really good guy. We wish him the best. But I will miss the interaction. We've talked about this before. Lance Lynn in his postgame, some people are like, what's with that guy, the quick answer or the quip that he throws out? Lance is just trying to have fun, and it's performance art. That's what I call it.
I think that's a great way to describe it.
Thank you,
and I know he'll miss you, too, if he's not here.
He's going to get a lot of money somewhere else.
It's debatable.
You know, let's be honest.
What about blues hockey? You got some blues hockey this winter?
I'm going to do, a bunch of games in studio, and I look forward to that. They should be really good. So I'll be busy. Dan, I'm very impressed about your goals in the carpool line because I steer clear of that because to me that
could be vicious.
It's scary.
It's a little tough.
No, honestly, like I leave
get after
there
it.
and I need to like sit down in a quiet space for about 20 minutes at carpool line.
Yeah, I get it.
It's not for everyone.
Not for everyone.
For my
What are you
wife.
laughing at?
I'm past it. I don't care.
You don't care anymore, do
No,
you?
I care about you a little.
Thanks, Ricky.
I'll be thinking about you in those lines. I'll be playing golf probably.
Yeah.
Right now I'm getting nervous because Danny Mac, when he's doing a game and he has guests, he's sort of like Johnny Carson, like for a stand-up comic. Is he going to get the invite to the couch? I'm wondering, as we head to the end of this half inning, if I'm going to get the request to stick around, and I have a feeling no.
Well, as his Ed McMahon, I can arrange for you to stay.
You're in.
Yeah.
I'd like to. All right,
Yeah,
that's a relief.
You're going to be here. There was a base hit by Aguilar. Now it's Hernan Perez. It's been at third base and it's short. Came up with that really good play to take a hit away from Diaz. Slowly hit towards short. Boy, he's nifty, isn't he?
Good player.
Good player is right. The shortstop for the Cardinals, Alex Mejia. 4-0 Milwaukee. Young lady there in the middle is Kelly Farrell, and she is wrapping up this season after many years being a part of Team Fred Bird. That's her sister on the left, and her dad, Dan Farrell, longtime Cardinal employee on the right. One of the real good people in our business, and congratulations to Kelly moving on. And Dan has been significant for all of us, and on the TV side helping us out. One of the great people.
I started out about the same time that Dan did. He was a young guy in the early 80s, and he's been with the club a long time, and he is really an outstanding leader. We interact with him a lot, obviously, but he's helped build this franchise, along with many others, into where we are.
That's it on a play by Carson Kelly. We're going to be doing some of the shows, the rewind shows. Jimmy, you'll be a part of that in the upcoming months, right?
And hot stove, which means most likely we'll FaceTime with some players and bother them in the off season. Oh, great. You again? I thought we just did an interview last week. No, that was a month and a half ago.
Best player to deal with. Give me it. Come on. Put you on the spot.
There's honestly, there are too many. There, a lot of them are
tied for first. Maybe you can give us one of those answers.
I'd like to manage against you.
Kelly, a ground ball that's hit to third.
DeYoung has been great for a young guy, kind of thrust into a position of talking to him a lot in the clubhouse. Sometimes after losses, tough for a young guy. So I'm really impressed with Paul DeYoung, not only as a player and the obvious things, but the way he carries himself. I mean, there are times in the clubhouse, there's 15, 20 media guys after a loss. He's a young guy. He's just kind of getting himself established as a big leaguer, and he's there answering questions like a total pro. But there's a ton of guys I love talking to, and I thought Matt Carpenter was great today.
Sierra, the ground out to first.
Staying on that same topic of the young guys, Jim, I'm curious in your line of work. You do have a great rapport with the players. You really do, and I know that there's a lot of effort in that, and it's a long season, a lot of time with these guys. But when a young guy comes up who you don't know, and I guess that probably starts in spring training in some ways, but it could happen during the year. John Brevia comes out of nowhere. Are they tentative around you, or do they get the word from the veteran guys, hey, Jim's okay, and you can have fun with him? Are they
being honest?
Yeah, do
okay,
they start
so
out tentative?
I'll go up to John Brevia and I'll introduce myself, and then everyone around him will say, don't talk to that guy. That's the truth. And then he gets a clue that maybe it's not exactly what they're saying. And some of these guys, too, watch our games. They come from Memphis or so they're kind of familiar, with how we go about it. But the first thing when there's a new guy and one of the veterans sees me talking, they go, don't talk to that guy. That's the first thing.
That's baseball player love talk is what that is.
Yeah, no question. Jack Flaherty at the plate. No balls and 2 strikes. You had a great year, Jimmy. I mean that sincerely. As we always talk about, you're one of my best friends in life, and I think your job at times is thankless. It's not easy.
Pride-swallowing siege,
as we like to call it, a pride-swallowing siege to go up and try to go to guys when they're not going well, team not going well. But I don't know anybody in the game that does it any better than you. I mean that.
Thank you.
Agreed.
Ground out off the bat of Flaherty. Thank you, Jimmy. And we'll see you on the post game.
Yep.
You're the best here. 4-0 our score. 125 years of Cardinals baseball, decade by decade salute. Order now at 314-345-9000 or cardinals.com/yearbook. Bittersweet today as the season comes to a close. It is a privilege to come to the ballpark every day. Win, lose, hot, cold, rain, snow. It's Major League Baseball, and it doesn't get any better.
And I'm struck by all the happy faces that we've been seeing in the shots throughout the day. And this is just from the heart, really. Is this game is fun to be around. It's a wonderful sport, and it has been for many, many years. And yes, you want to win, but you really want to be entertained and have fun at the ballpark and just enjoy being together with your family and your friends and 40,000 other people rooting for the same thing and being in the same direction. I just think baseball offers something really important to our city and to our country, and even when you don't win, there's a lot of benefits to be derived.
First pitch to Phillips is a strike. You said something very important there, a lot, but stuck out to me, the city.
Yeah.
This is different. We try to explain that to other people or those that follow us night in and night out. We have the chance to go to all the stadiums, different times of the year. And it's not just lip service, it's the truth. This place is different than most other places in all of sports, not just baseball. For instance, Ricky, I had a chance to go do hockey for a number of years. Now I haven't done it for a long time, but I'll never forget going into a Saturday night in a Canadian city and what that means to that fan base.
Right.
A Canadian hockey game on a Saturday night, whether it be Toronto or Montreal, or those are traditional franchises. There's a base hit into right, but coming to the ballpark in St. Louis, it's like that most of the nights that we're here. It's incredible how important that this has become to the fabric of the community of St. Louis. It's a chance to get away from some of the nasty things going on. It's a chance to bring your family to the ballpark, enjoy the game, and we know, number one, what brings people to the ballpark is winning baseball.
Right.
But the atmosphere here is different than other places.
I think Scott Rowland got at that a little bit in his interview with you on Friday, and his bobblehead night, and for him to come back, he doesn't come back often enough, but he was really clear and emotional, I would say, about that. Scott's a pretty funny guy and has an offbeat sense of humor, but I think he was very serious about missing that connection and appreciating the fact that playing here in St. Louis was different for him. Growing up in Jasper, Indiana, and getting a chance to be connected to what the Cardinal fan base is all about. And it's not meant to be said in an arrogant way, Dan, that other places it's more just celebrating the fact that we've got a good thing going here, and we should celebrate that.
Oh, 2 the count on Keon Broxton.
I would say I can't go anywhere during the season, and we have the privilege, you and I and Jimmy and Al and Tim and all of our post-game folks, we have the privilege of communicating Cardinal baseball to the fans, and every place we go, people, well, how are the Cardinals doing? Well, what happened? Is Flaherty going to pitch tomorrow? How's Carlos's command? I mean, you get questions all day long because it's what people are thinking about, and we have the privilege of representing that and being involved in it. It's just a great thing.
It's habit for people to come home 6:30, turn on Fox Sports Midwest,
right,
watch a game. Here's a 1-2 pitch to Broxton, and a late swing and a strikeout. Most consecutive winning seasons all time, and the Cardinals closing in on 15. Currently it sits at 10.
And you think about the 2007 season, had the Cardinals had a winning season there, so you really go back to 2000, and had they done that, it would have been 18 straight seasons. So winning certainly That's part of the formula. There's no question about that. Is you want to get kind of swept up in the excitement of maybe playing October baseball, and Cardinal fans have such a great tradition of enjoying that. But you know, they're still your guys.
That's part of the reason why I think this offseason can be fascinating. If the Cardinals go out and get a superstar some way, somehow. I don't know who that might be. There are names out there.
There's a short list that is being circulated, but of course there's always a lot of dollars and cents that go into those kind of decisions and factors that are business factors. But in terms of the want to, yeah, I think that's on the off-season list. An impact player in the middle of the lineup. Cardinals have such a great system going right now. There are some tradable parts that you'd hate to lose, but you might like what you get back for them.
One ball and one strike. And it begins, if well, it's already been talked about time and again in the Cardinal front office, but it begins in earnest tomorrow.
It does.
Here's a 1-1 pitch. Granted late. Does that drive you nuts as a former pitcher to see that granted?
Yeah, it's a hard thing for an umpire, though. I do feel for them because they're trying to, maybe he's asking for time already. He's asking. Is Flaherty going to wait any longer? And then right when you decide to call time is when he starts his motion. So it's not a simple thing for an umpire to know.
Here's a 1-1. And it's 1-2.
But to answer your question, yes, it drives you crazy. You don't like it.
I wonder if we come back opening day and there is a clock between pitches. I could see that happening. I think that's going to get more and more traction in this offseason. Get through the games, get through the World Series. That's off the end of the bat and a base hit. And when the commissioner is talking with his team and he gets more input from owners and various officials in front offices, they say, well, what can we do to improve speed of play? Because that is front and center on his agenda. Well, you may see that.
And you know the club that I belong to is the ex-pitchers club, and ex-pitchers club union as it relates to all things baseball. So I have that slant and that background. I believe if you're talking about speeding up the pitches, that's not a pitcher issue. It's a batter issue. Because the pitcher's not going to get ready and stand there while you're fiddling with your batting gloves. It's just not going to happen. So if the batter, you're not supposed to leave the batter's box. That was a rule a couple years ago. Unless you hit a foul ball. You cannot leave the batter's box. Guess what everybody does? Leaves the batter's box.
It's not enforced again.
Right.
I think the mound visits and the clock has not been enforced anymore. The time that you have to challenge is very, very much a gray area.
The home plate collision is confusing.
0-2 the count on Wilkerson, the pitcher for the Brewers today.
I like the way, by the way, Dan, big picture, the way Flaherty has settled down a bit here, because he had such a bad start to this game. First 3 guys reaching base, sacrifice fly, 3-run home run. You're thinking, oh man, but he's settled down and started pitching much better.
Here's the 0-2 and a strikeout. It will be a fascinating offseason for the Cardinals because they've got to catch the Cubs, and we're seeing now Milwaukee is here. You know, they could tinker a little bit. You would expect that they would be at least the same, if not better, next year. But middle of the bat type of middle of the order type bat is what they're looking at. You got to think about
that subject.
You got to think about your bullpen too.
On that subject, could you envision a scenario with Lance Lynn being a Chicago Cub?
Absolutely. I alluded to that the other day.
That's not going to feel very good.
I think, you know, I've said this, because the Cardinals have young pitching coming. Some of it's here, like a Weaver. I think you can say he'll be in your starting 5 next year. Flaherty, maybe.
Alex Reyes,
maybe. Fly ball out to center, but if you get somebody on a short-term deal, a veteran, I think that would be advantageous for the club. We'll see how it plays out. T-Mobile deeper coverage of Major League Baseball. And a look at the Triple Crown stat leaders. Charlie Blackmon looks like he'll win the batting championship. Stanton one shy of 60 home runs, 131 he's driven in. And then in terms of the pitching side, Kershaw, and then Scherzer.
I think Kershaw is your Cy Young, and I think Blackmon is your MVP.
And how about in the American League for you?
I think Altuve is the MVP, and I think Sale is probably the Cy Young Award winner. But there's a lot of good choices, and it's of course colored by whether or not you think the team that the players playing for won enough, and because that's part of the factor. And you could say Goldschmidt is another worthy candidate in the National League.
Well, sometimes nature calls, and that could be the case here.
I thought maybe the umpires were doing what Hernan Perez was doing and playing different positions. Where is Hernan Perez right now?
Try to find him. Where's
Waldo? Let's see. He's not there. Not catching. Still playing third.
And a fly ball out to shallow left center. By the way, the Cardinals do not have a hit in this game as we play here in the bottom of the fourth.
So wait a minute. You're saying he's got a no-hitter going? No hits.
Yeah.
0 hits. This pitcher has he is not allowed a hit.
Yes.
Just doing my best to change that, Danny.
I got you. Left side off the bat of Mejia. 2 down.
A lot of ground balls, too. He's kept the ball in the infield for the most part. And if you add this to his 7 innings of hitless ball against Memphis, the Cardinal organization has now gone 10 2/3 hitless innings.
Right.
Against Aaron Wilkerson, who's trying to get his first big league victory.
Here's Randall Grichuk with 2 outs and nobody on. And that pitch is hit out of play. Well, before you know it, it'll be the Caravan right after Christmas. The Cardinals cruise, the Kubota Power Stats
fantasy camp.
Yep, fantasy camp. See the most team home runs, 2017, at this ballpark. And then the season starts a little bit earlier this year to allow more off days for the regular season next year. So right around Valentine's Day, give or take a few days one way or another, the club will report with pitchers and catchers, and away we go for 2018.
Earlier start to spring training games.
That's my point.
They're going to be doing a little bit different next year in terms of giving more off days during the season, and that's the only way to accommodate that is starting earlier. Before you know it, Danny, we'll be after it again.
Affected by the recent hurricanes. Certainly the impact being felt, without question, with the players from Puerto Rico. 4-0 our score. Jonathan VR. Report that Terry Collins will resign after the game today for the Mets and take a front office role with New York. Brad Ausmus already let go and will be done after this season with
Phillies.
Detroit. Pete McCannon with the Phillies. That one surprised me a little bit.
Yeah. Well, he's been certainly part of rebuilding with that team. I thought they did better this year than expected. I'm not saying they had a good season. I'm just saying he's got some. Really started with nothing, essentially.
As you always say, you got to have some horses, right?
Yeah.
You got to have somebody. 0-2 on VR. And a ground ball that's fair. Luke Voigt steps on the bag.
That'll be a part of the hot stove conversation. Of course, it'll probably be named fairly quickly when they start thinking about a manager. You want to get them up and going before the winter meetings, but just the idea of what upcoming managers may be out there that teams would be interested in.
How about your favorite moment from this year? Even with a season that you don't go to postseason play, there's so many good moments. You play 162. Rally Cat would have to be up there. The Grand Slam.
That's in the top 5, sure.
I like seeing all the debuts. I love seeing a major league debut.
Thinking DeYoung's home run in his first at bat, and just really one after another. I think my favorite moment was really a week of moments with Magneuris and Sierra and Tommy Pham. They just transformed the team.
That was in Atlanta and Miami.
Oh my goodness, that was a fun week, and I think the team was spiraling kind of in the wrong direction, and I think that moment really helped. It's hard to sustain that, but what they did was important.
Catch made in center by Bader off the bat of Thames.
I think another very important moment for this team on the field, not necessarily that fans could see or even that we could see, but when they came together, I believe it was in Cincinnati, and decided to be together. And of course, we see that together, the clasping of the hands together. I think that was another crossroad moment for Mike Matheny's team, that they needed to stay together. Win or lose, we're going to be together. And I think Adam Wainwright, Yadier Molina, Matt Carpenter, the veteran guys just took it upon themselves to say, we need this, you know, sink or swim, we're teammates. And we're not all the same. That's fine. We don't all think the same. We don't all act the same. But between the lines, we're going to be together. And I think that was important to keep them in the hunt up until game 158.
0-2 on Aguilar. I paid attention, and I always pay attention to the minor leagues, but man, Memphis caught my attention. I didn't want to miss a box score with every night, or check him out on video if I could.
I learned more about the app on my iPad for the minor league than I have in other seasons, because I did want to check who's pitching today. Are they winning again? How many in a row? How's the playoffs going?
And part of that is because we do 15 games in spring training, so you see a lot of these guys and hear that they're close, and then they just took off. There's a strikeout for Flaherty, and we're midway through 5. Cardinals still looking for that first hit in the season finale. A lot of fun. Make sure you do it. Contact Altair Travel and Cruises. Book your spot. 314-968-9600. A lot of the players are on that. Mike Matheny has been on that before. The broadcasters, front office personnel.
Alex Reyes, Carlos Martinez scheduled to go this winter. And Dan, as your analyst today, I feel obligated to tell you the Cardinals do not have a hit yet, which you already know, but I thought I should verbalize that one more time.
So you're saying they need a hit. There being no hit.
That's correct. And I have another moment for you. You asked me in the top half of the inning about great moments this year. I love Yadi's home run being called in Spanish.
It was a good one.
It was terrific. Fun. Not that I like it when I don't get to hear your call.
Yeah, I took it that way. But I'm over it. It's okay. Two balls and one strike. Not much of an off season for the men and women of our crew, many of them, and there's Polo and Benji Molina, Julio Cincia. they go down to Scott Trade Center and start doing Blues hockey, and some of them will work with the Billikens broadcast as well.
You know what I noticed when I go to the Blues games? They never even say hi to me.
Nope.
They just, you're just like, yeah, it's
Yep.
unbelievable. It's like, who's that guy?
Yep.
It's a hockey season. We don't talk to you.
Then again, though, you're usually in the owner's suite. You're a high roller.
No, I'm not. Jim Hayes will wave at me, but then he'll look away quickly.
Yeah. High chopper to third on the 3-2. And the low throw. And out number one. That's an off-season resolution for me.
More hockey games.
More hockey games.
Yeah, I say that every year, too, and I just need to make that happen. I never am disappointed being at a Blues game, ever.
So,
And Dan, just my earlier point, I can't tell you of the last 10 or 15 games that I've gone to Blues game. I can't tell you how many they won. I mean, I don't leave there with that thought. I mean, I'm rooting for them to win, but the experience trumps it for me.
I'm going to try to make it a better experience for you.
Okay.
I want you to one night substitute as the towel man.
Okay. No, wait a minute. Before I say okay, I'm saying okay, that's what you want, not okay, I'm going to do that.
Why not? Do it.
I'd like to go sit by him.
We can make that happen. Also, Tom Stoneman is watching. Be happy to accept any tickets you want to send my way. Make sure we can take care of that for Rick. It's all about Rick right now. It's not about me.
Well, maybe you and I should go to a game together. And we could do our little play-by-play analyst thing in the stands.
Honestly, I really don't want to see you until spring. We talk more during the off season than we do during the season.
Oh my goodness.
We have fun. Here's Greg Garcia.
Diaz, by the way, the report back from the Cardinals, it is a hamstring, which I think we were pretty clear on when it happened. So you feel for him getting a chance to play here at the end, and means Greg Garcia is in his spot.
Last time the Cardinals were no hit was in 2012. It was the first ever and only Mets no hitter. Johan Santana. Ball that looked to be fair off the bat of Carlos Beltran down the third base line, and it was ruled foul, and then he made an out, and Santana went the different distance. Never was the same after that. And if you're wondering when the Cardinals were last no hit here at home, take a guess.
I bet it's been 30 years.
06 of 1906.
Well, that's more than 30 years.
That's a long time.
1906.
1906.
Cardinals have not been no hit in St. Louis since 1906. That's what you just said.
Yes.
Who did it? Somebody we've never heard of, probably.
Mal Eason.
Oh, I know him.
Of Brooklyn. Wow. We head to the 6th.
Intriguing.
the emergence of the rookies this year, in particular the Cardinals shortstop. Called up May 28th. We were in Colorado. First at bat, hit the home run. At one point, then sent back down, and then he comes back up. And what does he do? He hits 25 home runs. What a year it was for Paul DeJong. And this is our Chevy call to the pen at Brett Cecil.
Been a tough season for Brett Cecil. 72 games, but he's gotten better. He's had good moments, and you'd like him to finish on a good note and certainly come back and have a bounce back year. In 2018, he's actually oddly had some issues with left-handed batters, but really like Jack Flaherty's ability to settle down after a 4-run first inning and put up 4 zeros after that. And that's what you hope he remembers going into the offseason, what he did the last 4 innings.
One of the things that I look at if a pitcher is struggling, and it's obvious, is velocity. And his velocity this year has been down, I'd say, 1.5 miles to 2, which you say, what's the big deal? That's no big deal, right? It is, though, big deal. And his velocity has been down, and with that as well, location, and that's been some of the issues.
Yeah, you make mistakes, and as Tim McCarver likes to say, this is the big leagues, and you're not going to get away with very many. And speaking of Tim McCarver, I have another answer to your question of good moments this year. Thinking of the 67 celebration, the 50-year anniversary of the Cardinals winning the World Series, and also getting a chance to celebrate with the guys from 87.
It's fun. You guys had a blast, didn't you?
We sure did.
Tim going into the Cardinals Hall of Fame. Fly ball out to left. Can I have a personal behind-the-scenes favorite moment?
Yes.
Been doing this now a long time. I don't get awestruck. I just don't. These are people we deal with. As a fan, as a kid, you do. Tim took me down along with Jim Hayes to meet Willie Mays and talk to Willie Mays, who's still sharp as you could possibly be. And I told him the story of Tim telling me, I said, what was the first thing you remember? This is one of the first games I worked with Tim. What's one of the first things you remember about Willie Mays in the box? He said his manicured fingernails.
Remember you telling me that?
I said, what are you talking about? I told Willie Mays that, and before I could finish the sentence, he said, look at these. And
that's how Willie talks.
And he put his hands out, and they're beautifully buffed and manicured, and shaking his hand and taking a picture. And he said, can I please sign balls for you guys? You know, he signed baseballs for us. That was about, I get goosebumps thinking about it. That's baseball royalty to me. And it's just something I'll never forget.
Nothing like a gracious 5-tool player with good nails, I always say.
And meat hooks, his hands.
Oh, that's right.
It was unbelievable how strong his hands were. Here's a 1-2. It's always great catching up with the Passmore family reunion throughout our various stops around Major League Baseball, but the Passmores have been with us time and again throughout the season. So that was my personal favorite, catching up with Willie Mays.
The only bad part of that story is I wasn't there. I would love to have been a part. I mean, Willie Mays as a kid, you think about generations that just love particular players, and you think about Clemente, Mays, Aaron. That was royalty to me.
A Cardinals vacation. Cardinals.com/vacations. 1-800-892-7687. Well, Wilkerson is perfect through 5 innings. 5 innings, no hits, no walks. He has struck out 3. And a lot of ground balls along the way.
Pitch count's low enough that it should not be a factor as it was in the September start against Memphis. Threw 105 pitches there. Again, 11 strikeouts in that game. So this guy's got the ability to put you away. A little bit more on his background too, Dan.
As Kelly on the first pitch pops it up. Well, now, by the way, before you start in on that, this starts taking on some intrigue of more than just being the last game of the season. This guy is perfect now through 5 1/3. A little pressure on the defense. You might grind through some of the more difficult at bats.
Something special going on here. There's no question. So I mentioned earlier, Dan, that he had the Tommy John in 2011 and found himself working in the frozen food section of the local supermarket at Waco. So he's got a little bit of a Kurt Warner story. So he's working there and then got offered a chance to play with the independent team in Fort Worth, the Fort Worth Cats. And he got offered just after being given a promotion to manager at the supermarket. So he had to decide whether or not he took the position or decided to play baseball.
That's great.
I would say he made a pretty good choice.
Isn't that great?
Yep.
Here's a 2-0 pitch to Sierra. Just curious. I'm not saying he would do it here. Where do you sit on guys that bunt in a perfect game or a no-hitter?
I don't like it, but that's a pitcher's union comment. I think you swing the bat. But I do think this. I do think that the defenders have to play it straight. You can't just play back and just totally assume. If the defense tries to get an advantage from it, I think that changes the game a little.
3-2 the count with 1 out and nobody on. And Sierra strikes out. Well, the Cardinals hit a home run today. Get a free McDouble or frozen beverage the next day with the McDonald's app. Download it for exclusive deals. Jose Martinez did a lot of his damage this year early on in the season, especially against left-handed pitching. Is a career-high 26-game on-base streak. And the longest by a Cardinal rookie since Aledmys Diaz had 26 games a year ago. And there it is, your first hit. Martinez a base hit into right. 27 straight for Jose Martinez.
That's fitting for a lot of reasons. To extend that streak, to celebrate the season of Jose Martinez. He's been a top pinch hitter. That's what he started out as he takes his curveball. Pretty good pitch the other way. But it also gets the Cardinals pinch hit average back to 300. They were 299 coming into that particular at bat. So been a strength of this team. Bill Miller, John Mabry having guys ready to pinch hit.
Clearly the moves will dictate what you do in the offseason, but Cardinals have indicated as Valera flies out to left that Jose Martinez is in the plans at first base potentially next year as their starter. Cardinals get their first hit. of October, so a couple of days away. Major League Baseball on FS1 and Fox. The regular season ended today, which it does. This is what it looks like. And the matchups, Twins and Yankees will be the wild card to face Cleveland, Boston, and Houston. Great matchup. In the National League, the Rockies and Diamondbacks, that could be a fun wild card too. That winner gets the Dodgers, and then the Cubs and Washington. Man, I don't know. I just don't know if there's a clear-cut favorite either way.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I do know that it's going to be interesting in October baseball, and the odd thing about today's game time, Dan, which is something we haven't mentioned, is every game in baseball starting at the same time, with the hopes that some year it's going to come down to this day deciding 2 or 3 of those wild card positions or maybe divisions. It just didn't happen this year. I thought it would. There were a lot of teams still in it first week of September, but it just didn't happen that way. Didn't have that kind of exciting finish, but some year in baseball that's going to happen, and it's going to be thrilling. I like the idea of them starting every game at the same time for that reason. Just didn't pan out.
Here's one of the guys that emerged here in 2017 that certainly is in the mix next year out of the bullpen, John Brebbia.
He's one of my favorite spots of this year. Watching him walk around every town that we're in on a sunny day with an umbrella.
Had to do that in Colorado, right?
Bought an umbrella from the front desk at the hotel because it was raining. Didn't quite know how to get to the ballpark, so he walked. And the umbrella's been with him ever since.
Many thanks to Joe Strom, our VP of tickets here at the ballpark. Always helps us out. So many charities as well. But the attendance today, 44,787. That's caught on the fly. Brings the total attendance to 3,447,937. The per game average about 42.5. The 5th highest attendance in franchise history. And the Cardinals second in Major League Baseball attendance for the 5th consecutive season, behind the Dodgers. And in terms of 3 million fans, 21st time in franchise history and the 14th year in a row. Thank you to the fans. Great support as always.
I think about the ring that I'm fortunate enough to own because I was on a team of really good players in 1987, and the side of the ring has the attendance of just over 3 million. And so significant that season, not just the Cardinals playing in the World Series, and now we're celebrating it and have been 30 years later, but the fact that there was that great showing with the fan base and the support that happened in '87. And you know, the Cardinals just haven't looked back. 3 million has become kind of the bar now, not the hope, but the bar.
There's a fly ball out to left. Sierra is there. That was one of the giveaways Megan Eberhardt put together and her staff. Great giveaways. As I mentioned before, it's winning baseball. We both talked about that. That's number one. You win, fans will come, but many ways to come down to the ballpark through the theme nights and what Megan and her crew do. The season ticket holder base is in the mid 20,000s, which is an incredible number for this market size. The out of town fan base on weekends, 65–70% outside a 60-mile radius. That's who comes to the ballpark on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday normally. Fly ball out to left, going back. Sierra on the track and makes the catch. Brebbia with a scoreless inning. Time to stretch. State Farm, perfect pair. This is the home run, a 3-run shot that made it 4-0 Milwaukee. And then Aaron Wilkerson, well, he took a perfect game into the 6th inning. Been very good here today. Back out there for the bottom of the 7th.
Very good, not overpowering, as we mentioned. He's got a low 90s fastball, and again, I would say I'm very pleased with what Jack Flaherty was able to do. I'm sure he is as well, and Derek Lilliquist, Blaze Ilsley, the pitching coaches, and the fact that he's able to settle down after that rough start and regain his composure. But Wilkerson has had it from pitch 1.
Gateway Honda home run inning. Cardinals hit a home run. The Gateway Honda dealers donate $1,000 to the Make-A-Wish Foundation of Missouri. Our thanks also to all our wonderful sponsors of Cardinals baseball throughout the season here on Fox Sports Midwest. Can't do it without you, and thank you for helping us out. Your continued support. Mejia grounds out, 1 away. Cardinals with 1 hit. That's Jose Martinez off the bench. Besides the look of the team and the players that may come and go in spring training, I think you would agree a couple things need to improve. That would be defensively, which we talked about last year. I thought it got better as the season went along.
It did.
And base running. Base running is another aspect that's got to get better.
And base running got better in some ways. And I think as I've talked to Mike Schilt about this on numerous occasions, he has a lot of metrics to study base running, and when he talks about being picked off and maybe being thrown out at a base, he calls those exotic outs, which I think is an interesting term for it. But he said way too many of those, way too many of those. But what you don't notice is that the Cardinals went 1st to 3rd better than any team in baseball this year. That's a huge difference from a year ago, and they are better at a lot of things, even coming from 2nd to home. But the outs that you see, the pickoffs, the stolen bases were good. You have Tommy Pham stealing bases now at a higher rate, which I think has really affected the whole team. Be more conscious of base running. 80 steals. Here's the 1st to 3rd, 87 times going 1st to 3rd. Well, that takes effort. It takes you got to be ready for that. You got to be wanting that. So there have been some improvements, and he's been a big part of it. What a year he's had.
He'd get my vote for MVP of the Cardinals.
I don't think there's any doubt.
Grichuk with a high fly ball out to deep left and a long one. Randall Grichuk with the home run. Number 22. It's got to feel good going into the postseason and offseason for Randall Grichuk.
It's such a classic Randall Grichuk moment, striking out in the 1st, striking out in the 4th, but he's got this kind of ability to wow you. Not a real violent swing, just a simple swing. When he gets the bat head, the barrel at the right place at the right time, his power is extraordinary.
Gateway Honda dealers donate $1,000 to the Make-A-Wish Foundation of Missouri. Kia in the driver's seat. All-time look at the rookie home runs. 47 hit by the rookies this year, most ever in Cardinals franchise history.
I got another great moment, Dan. Isn't it interesting how they come back to you?
Luke Voigt's grandma.
That's a good one. That's actually, I may have laughed harder at that about her talking about the money that she's agreed to pay him for every home run that he hits. I thought that was great, but I'm just thinking about you and I having dinner with Jim Jackson at the Square Grouper in Florida in spring training, talking about the upcoming season with the sun setting in a beautiful place in Jupiter. That's a highlight for me.
It was fun.
It's a Cardinal highlight.
We did that a bunch.
Kind of.
My favorite part was when Jim was interviewing Luke's grandma, and she stays in a home, and said,
Yes.
well, not everybody can stand up and
He
applaud.
said, did you all give him a standing ovation? She said, well, we all can't do that.
We all clapped. We all couldn't stand.
Oh, my goodness, that was funny.
Final day of the season, he brings his glove and gets a souvenir.
And that will be his #1 memory of the 2017 season.
A 3-2 pitch, and Voit pulls it foul. Where does Luke Voit fit into the plans for 2018?
Well, it's a good question. I actually wish we'd have seen a little bit more of him in the last month of the season. He really got caught in a place where he was behind Jose Martinez, who was playing so well, and it made it kind of hard to figure out where to use him. And I think he's a guy that can play more, but certainly the role that the Cardinals have used him in this year, I think, makes sense for him to continue in it. Good power bat off the bench.
High fly ball out to right. That stays in the ballpark.
I'm a big fan of having threats off your bench.
No question.
I mean, somebody could be a game changer. I think Luke Voit's that guy. Think about some of the pinch hitters that have just had that thump. And pinch hitting's not easy. You have to have a certain mindset for it. Doesn't mean that you're just going to pinch hit only. You'll have, like Greg Garcia plays a fair amount, but you think of him as a bench player generally. I think Luke Voit can be that kind of guy.
And Bader, fly ball into right. Home run by Grichuk, a souvenir for a young fan, and a nice day here at the ballpark as we wrap up 2017. Blue season preview gets you ready for Mike Yo's first full year as head coach. Host Scott Warman and Darren Pang also profile Vladimir Tarasenko, Jake Allen, Alex Pietrangelo, and break down the Central Division Blue season preview brought to you by your Mid-America Chevy dealers. That's tonight at 6 on Fox Sports Midwest. Our Chevy call to the pen, Sandy Alcantara. We've talked about it, Rick. Eventually, you got to figure he's a starter, but maybe as soon as next year, he might be coming out of your bullpen. He's shown an awful lot here in the final month.
He's looked very, very good. The stuff, of course, is there, but he's been better at throwing strikes, I think, and in commanding the zone. We saw him in spring training, and we could tell he had some growing to do. But the talent is extraordinary for Sandy Alcantara, and that's another moment for me this year. That It's not going to make anybody's top 10 list, but in some ways maybe it should. Sandy Alcantara in Pittsburgh on the 23rd of September, 2017, threw a 95-mile-an-hour changeup.
And you had never seen that.
I don't think I'm not sure I'm ever going to see it again. He overthrew it a bit, but still, my goodness.
Right center. And Bader with the catch. I want to thank our director, Tom Mee. Another great year of directing our games. Brian McCann, our producer, who does such a great job. Incredible the work that he does on the road. And what fans need to know is that sometimes we're limited on the road with resources as opposed to what we have at home. And
right,
Brian does a remarkable job with that. Keith O'Brien and his top assistant, Keith Oberman, they're here every single day working in our truck. All the men and women of our crew here at home.
And the crew that travels with us, the guys you mentioned, they're working with different crews all over baseball. And when we play interleague games, people they're not used to working with, it's a lot of work to get the production part down pat, and they do a terrific job, and of course our home crew really does.
It is a ground rule double, fair ball inside the left field line for Thames.
Just barely fair down the left field line, and for the crew that travels with us, and producer, director, everybody in the truck, that the hardest part of their job is that they're listening to us all day long.
It's hard.
Helping us and listening to us.
One out and a runner at second base. Jesus Aguilar. One for his last 14. I bet he's watching right now, but our researcher that does great work behind the scenes, many of the graphics that you see, Dan Hyatt, has been dealing with some personal issues with family that are sick, and so he's put in a lot of long nights dealing with family and then trying to get the work done. And everything he brings us, we appreciate it, Dan.
And also thinking of our great friend Mike Helling, who longtime producer for the Cardinals, who now helps Fox on a national level with production capabilities, and we don't get to see him on a regular basis, but we sure do appreciate and love Mike.
Ditto. 2-2. Tim McCarver, Al Raboski, Brad Thompson, Rick Ankiel, Jim Edmonds, Rick Horton, myself. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Scott Warman, Jim Hayes. We appreciate you always tuning in.
We also had a vote this summer, Dan. Tim and Jim and Al and I, we all got together and voted, and we decided you're pretty darn good at what you do. It was unanimous. No dissenting votes. We just said, you know what? This guy is really, really good.
And I appreciate that. Feel the same about you guys.
We didn't say we liked you. We just said you're really good at what you do.
I get that part. Yeah, I didn't
just thought I'd clarify.
I mean, I get it.
I say that, then I'm going to be out there with the square grouper with you again next spring training. Talking baseball 2018. Can't wait.
Be here before you know it. The 2-2. The fly ball. Deep center. Bader back at the wall, and it's gone. Just gets over the wall. And a home run for Jesus Aguilar. See, the beauty of working with Rick Horton, folks, is that I can come to the ballpark and say, Rick, I don't know. I think the sky today is purple. And Rick would say, yeah, you make a valid point, even though it's blue, and explain why it might be purple and make sense of everything that comes out of my mouth.
So I understand you. Is that what you're saying?
You're beautiful at what you do. You're awesome.
I don't understand how he hit this ball off balance as far as he did. Aguilar. Pretty good pitch.
I get to live the dream of a lot of Cardinal fans, which is working with the Tim McCarver. So if you want to ask him about what happened with Bob Gibson in the 60s, trust me, he'll tell you, and he'll remember.
Yeah.
Al in the 70s, Ricky in the 80s and early 90s, Jimmy recently retired. Talk about the great teams in the early 2000s. That's what makes the mix fun. Great broadcasters, better people. 1-2 pitch. Tough play by Garcia on the short hop. And if they told me to read this cold and wouldn't have copy, I still wouldn't be able to do it.
I still don't know it
20,000 times. This copyrighted telecast
off-season job
is presented by the authority of the Cardinals and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. The accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the St. Louis Cardinals. A tear just went down my cheek.
Your last disclaimer of 2017.
The last disclaimer of 2017. Here's the 0-1 pitch. Milwaukee trying to lead the National League in both stolen bases and home runs for the second time in franchise history.
There were 2 home runs behind the Mets coming into play today. They have a lock, I would say, on the stolen base lead, as well as the most strikeouts. This team strikes out a ton. They broke their franchise record, 1,562 coming into this game. Flaherty, you can add 5 more to that. Cecil had a strikeout.
Major League Baseball concerned with all the strikeouts and the ball not in play, you think?
I think some are and some aren't. Some believe that's just the way the game is evolving. Others would like it to be a little bit more. Just saw a documentary today on Babe Ruth. John McGraw was worried about home runs and strikeouts because the game was about moving runners over. And Babe Ruth, well,
home run, strikeouts.
Changed the game, didn't it?
6-1 midway through 8. Famous among friends. And by 4, the official cars and trucks of the St. Louis Cardinals. Young man that never misses a game, and he's very sad that it is ending today. Luke Poling never misses our broadcast. No matter what he's doing, homework goes aside, maybe playing outside, that takes a back seat. It's about Cardinal baseball. As Carlos Torres takes over and our Chevy call to the pen. I was walking out with a certain Cardinal Hall of Fame center fielder And his young son the other day, who had tears in his eyes, knowing that the Cardinal season was done with a great catch in center field by the Chicago Cubs. Forget how invested fans get.
Oh, yeah.
And young fans especially. So Luke Poling will be back at it before you know it in March. Don't you worry.
Well, they may process it different. This is their year. This is the thing they love doing. And of course, as adults, we've been through wins and losses and ups and downs and all kinds of different trends. So I mean, I'm not saying it's not emotional, but you may have some tools to get through it. So I think there are parents that are dealing with it with their kids that, you know, I'm sorry, we're going to be watching other teams in the World Series this year.
When I was a kid, I chronicled every game. Listened on the radio. Next day, cut out the box score out of the paper, put it in my notebook, and crunch numbers. I loved it.
It's good training, Dan.
It was. Big Cardinal fan, Butch Lee, is watching in St. Charles, Missouri. Never misses a game, and when we were over at the AT rooftop, I found out one day just how big a Cardinal fan he was. Old Butch was enjoying the free libations over at AT rooftop, and sitting next to me, he nearly choked me to death when the Cardinals were starting to come back because he's hugging me so hard. So Butch Lee, relax. March will be here before you know it. He was into it, and I survived it.
You know, I think sometimes we apologize too much about baseball being slow. I think it is a bit of a slow game, but if you love it and learn to love the pacing of it and learn to love the artistry of it, then you might see how that passion will grow when you get a situation where maybe you can do something big. And I think it's built from the nice, lazy, hazy moments of a summer season when all of a sudden you're in a situation where Matt Carpenter does hit a grand slam to win a game. I think it is more exciting because you don't see it every day.
I have tailored the broadcast differently over the years to what we have now, and it's clear there are longer games. When I first started, a long game was probably 245, 250, and now on average I'd say we're 310 to 315. And when you're talking about a game that doesn't have a lot of action, it does allow you to tell more stories about the players and certainly the history of the game, which is something I love. And hopefully our fans have enjoyed that as well. But I just think, especially in St. Louis, and you go to the Dodgers or the Giants or the Cubs, the Mets, and you talk about the history and how they got there and the great players, it's good for young fans to hear that too.
Part of our story.
Right. I read a ton in the off season. I mean, I get into a lot of baseball books. I love it.
I would suggest any baseball fan that starts to miss the game a little bit in the off season, if you don't have it or can find it or borrow Ken Burns' series on baseball, that'll get you charged up for next spring.
Well done. As is documentary on Vietnam right now. Incredible.
Watching that at the moment.
As a young boy, I remember being to my only, as a fan, final game at Busch Stadium 2 and walking out with tears in my eyes that the season was over.
What year would that have been?
2 years ago. There's a base hit into center.
I'm just wondering if I was around.
You may have been. It was early mid 80s. You know, and for some of these players, there is no off season. For instance, a guy like Luke Voit, you might show up to the ballpark tomorrow. We may have some business down here and stop by the clubhouse, and Luke Voit is working out I mean, there is not much of an off season. Some guys take off a week or two, and that's about it.
Winter ball is in the mix for some younger players, or in Arizona Instructional League, and maybe the early camp that starts, I believe it's the 1st of February is when the early camp, the step camp starts. And of course the workouts will start in about 2 weeks, I would say, for most players. Some will take a couple of weeks off, but there's very little time off.
I've told this story before. I was doing some of Nomar Garciaparra's first ever broadcasting games, baseball. And we started talking, went out to dinner, and we started talking about what it was like playing in Boston. And he was asking about St. Louis, and he admired the fan base and how great this is. And he said after his rookie year, he actually went to a hotel room and for a week did not leave the hotel room and slept and ordered room service for an entire week. He was so exhausted. He said, I had to get away from every aspect of it, the media, the people, the players, everything. They'll get one, but not two. And that's to kind of further your point, where a lot of guys, their bodies need a little break. Go back home, get acclimated to waking up at a normal hour, going to bed at a normal hour, and then getting a routine of working out.
And not just the bodies, but the minds.
Yeah.
You think about how much preparation for Yadier Molina every single day. How many hours he's at the ballpark. And he loves doing it. That's not the question, but a lot of details about how to help every single pitcher out. And Yadi's so invested in every single game that he plays that the break will be good for him.
Looked to be a fairly routine play at second base.
Or is it?
I think they're questioning, the Cardinals are, whether or not they are at the bag at second.
Comes off early, and is his foot on the bag? It's not. He's going to be safe. He'd have been out 10 years ago with the neighborhood play. But he's not going to be out now.
See a shot, by the way, of, or at least looking in from up here, of Adam Wainwright, who announced today he'll have a little cleanup on his elbow, but expects to be fully healthy by spring training. And the bases are loaded here for the Cardinals and nobody out. Give him credit for trying to gut through a very painful situation last month.
Did everything he could do, and I really appreciate it. I really enjoyed, for those who missed it, Matt Carpenter and Jim Hayes in our pregame interview, and they took turns interviewing each other, and Matt talked about playing while you're hurt, and say the same thing about Adam. Towards the end of the year, he was doing everything he could do to find a way to get people out. If anybody had the tools to do it, it's him. But you'd like to see Adam back close to that 91-mile-an-hour fastball again, because then he could do a lot more with it.
1 year left on his deal next season. And I'm sure that'll be one of the storylines of spring training. He'll be asked about it time and again. You want to play beyond 2018. 1 ball, 1 strike on Paul DeJong. Cardinals with 3 hits. They've been out hit 7-3.
And my guess is Adam will know the answer to that question by July of 2018, but probably not before. Just always wish him the best.
Two and two. Great year for DeJong as he leads the Cardinals in home runs with 25. strikeout. The batter will be Mejia.
You know, one thing about spring training, Dan, the question we always get coming out of spring is what player impressed you that nobody knows about? And my answer to that question was Breivik Valera coming out of spring training this year. There's something about the way he swings. I just like him. He's not really showed well at the big league level yet, but had a good season in AAA, switch hitter. I think he has promise. Again, he's just not quite got untracked here. But he's hit everywhere he's played in the minor leagues, over 300. Career minor league batter.
Popped up, foul territory, and the catch is made. So 2 down. Mejia will be the batter. So 2 outs and the base is loaded for Mejia. He was shown quite well defensively anywhere the Cardinals have put him. He might be their best glove man.
I think he's got the best footwork. May be the best glove man. He said he learned it from his father. His father played professionally in Mexico. His uncle played in the minor leagues. But he really learned the footwork, and you know, defense starts with footwork. You better have soft hands too, but if your feet are in the wrong spot, you're destined for errors. All we need is a bloop and a blast, Danny.
I got to be honest, I'm going to look forward to not hearing that from you.
And you know why I say it? To get under your skin.
Yes, you do.
Which has gotten easier as we've worked together over the years.
I'm getting old.
I know your buttons.
You guys have made me old, though.
Say experienced.
It's going to be first week of March. Some guy from A-ball, we don't have any clue who he is. We won't see him throughout the season. Probably will never make it to the big leagues. And Rick will say, I'll stay all day for a Cardinal win. All you need is a bloop and a blast. And at that point, I will punch you.
Well, some sayings die hard that come from the dugout. And that's one of them.
I will tackle you on the air. That's it. I'm not taking it.
Yeah, I'll think of another phrase for it for next year.
That'll be fine. Two and two the count. Back to Torres, knocks it down, steps and makes the play. Cardinals had the bases loaded, can't score it. 6-1 as we head to the ninth. Everybody in my Twitter feed saying, Dan, all you need is a bloop and a blast. Thanks a lot. Sam Tuivailala.
I wonder if they used to say that early 1900s in a dugout.
You're the only one wondering.
Somebody else must be wondering.
Baseball. What made you think with somebody would in the early 1900s would say, "Oh,"
because it's an expression that players have said for decades.
Hey, chap, all we need is a bloop and a blast.
I wonder, whether chap, you think there were British people playing in 1900? What's the matter with you?
But as you pointed out to me, our favorite part of rolling back championship clubs in the video of the 40s and 60s, Bob Gibson strikes out 17, and they all, nice job, Bob.
Nice
well
job.
done, well done.
Mm-hmm.
Handshake, yes.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Excellent.
Guys jump, they throw Gatorade on each other, they rip their shirt off. And here Bob Gibson's coming off of the 7th game of the World Series. Yes, thank you, sir. Yep, did a good job.
Fastball, and he struck him out. It's always fun too, and we get Bob Gibson up in the booth. Had him in the 67 reunion. And I also did a speaker series with Tim and Bob this year, and they were just awesome.
Well, our Hall of Fame ceremony is always going to be a highlight of every season for me, I think. I mean, I go there, I watch the job that you do, and I'm seeing it, and to have all these players, as we're reminded of their great years, Pepper Martin's daughter this year, and Mark McGwire, Tim McCarver, just adding to this great legacy of Cardinal baseball, and to have many of these guys on hand, it's a very special thing. It's only going to get better.
Who do you think goes in next year?
Well, you know how I feel about Ray Langford not getting enough votes. I think he's deserving. That'd be one guy on my mind.
Me too. I think Roland will get a push. I think Isringhausen will get a push.
Yes, absolutely.
That's the thing. When you start these, you got to, you got a lot that you got to get in, that you know are eventually going to get in. And once it thins out, then you see some of the others that make their way into the Cardinals Hall of Fame, all deserving. There's Bill DeWitt and his lovely wife, Kathy, on the right.
I think at some point you have to have an organizational choice that makes sense to make sure we're not forgetting about the Pepper Martins of the world. Gas House Gang, that's certainly a long time ago. Most of us don't remember that, but that's a big part of our history.
Late break by Bader, and he makes the catch.
And if you're wondering, he did not do that on purpose. He did not try to make that as hard a catch as possible, but that's what he does because he breaks back on it. Back. Nope. Other way. And he's getting some help from Valera, too, thankfully. And he made up for it. Wow. That is not an easy catch. And it's also not the most direct route to that baseball.
This time last year, the Cardinals sent out Matt Holliday for one final inning by himself. Remember, to begin, I guess it was the 9th inning, and then he came in by himself, and really an emotional moment. I'm sure the club will at some point exit the dugout, tip their caps to the fans.
Yes.
Here's the 0-1 pitch.
Well, every season begins with hope. We talk about spring training, but that's 7.5 months now when you think about mid-February, early February even. It's a long season, and it even starts before that with the workouts, but these guys come together and they're going for a goal, and it's a tough moment when it ends. You're in some sense you're able to breathe and able to collect your thoughts, but it's a very philosophical, melancholy moment too for a lot of players.
And Tuivailala ends his season with a strikeout. 6-1 as we head to the bottom of the ninth. Budweiser, what's on tap? It's Spring Training 2018. Our next telecast for baseball will be next March, more than likely in Jupiter, Florida. When I say more than likely, sometimes we've had spring trainings that begin actually in February for our games. So we're taking a guess that it'll be March in Jupiter. Budweiser, what's on tap? Seung-Hwan Oh, a free agent to be, and wherever he winds up, also on the move, one of the great translators in the history of the game, Eugene Koo.
Just a delightful guy. Actually, so is Seung-Hwan Oh, and just don't know what's next for them. But it's been a pleasure being around him, that's for sure.
Eugene said he's going to travel a bunch. That's what he told me. He's going back to South Korea and wants to visit some of the areas he's never seen, and he will be back with Seung-Hwan Oh wherever he may be next year. Alberto Rosario. This is Taylor Williams, a right-hander, in for Milwaukee in the bottom of the ninth, and the Cardinals trailing 6-1. It's our Chevy call to the pen. 0-2. The Cardinals cannot come back. They will finish 4 games above the 500 mark here in 2017. And finish in 3rd place behind Milwaukee.
And finish a season where they have a losing record against Milwaukee for the first time in a long time, since 2010. Last time the Cardinals had a losing record against Milwaukee. And of course, the Cardinals had trouble beating the Cubs this year, and not winning in the division has been an issue.
Cardinals will drop to 34-42 inside the division. We had a discussion the other night that if the Cardinals played 500 baseball against the Cubs, they'd be in postseason play more than likely, or at least fighting for the division title here this weekend. But that was not the case. Cubs dominated St. Louis. Here's Luke Voit. And the first pitch is strike. So to our fans, we say thank you again for being with us in 2017. You're what makes this go. Two balls and one strike.
I think the moment you were talking about earlier, the Cardinals players acknowledging the fans, is a special part of the final weekend, the fan appreciation weekend. That's what we're in right now, fan appreciation weekend. And I think it began with certainly higher hopes than what might happen this weekend, but I enjoyed again the fans singing the national anthem on closing day. But I'm also looking forward to the players giving a tribute back to the fans.
We give our Budweiser player of the game to the fans. 5th highest total in franchise history. And here is Harrison Bader. Play behind the runner at first base, Luke Voit. And the 0-1. Bader pounds it foul, 0-2. That trio will be back. Martinez, Jose, and Carlos. Carlos on the right. You know, Yadier Molina signed long term. Hopefully no lingering issues with the batted balls off the mask.
I think Yachty had a very complete year this year too. Offensively, power numbers. I thought he caught better behind the plate than the last couple of years, which is still saying something. I mean, I thought his defense had really just gone up a notch. Everything about what he did this year, working with a lot of young pitchers and catching a lot of innings. Very, very durable.
Here's a 1-2 pitch to Bader. And a ball outside. Fielder's indifference for Luke Boyd at second base. RBI leader, Yadier Molina, 82 for the Cardinals. Here's a 2-2 pitch to Bader. Held on to and a strikeout. And the season is now 1 out away from being done. Here's Greg Garcia with 2 outs and a runner at second base. And a ground ball. This should do it. Backhanded at second, and 2017 comes to a close. The Cardinals finished the year at 83 and 79.
And a nice ovation by the fans here at the ballpark, and the players coming out to acknowledge the great fans of St. Louis Cardinal baseball.
And with that, we send it to the post-game show for the final time in 2017.